Hello, this is Max. Today, you will hear a story about the harshest social experiment. Warning, there will be spoilers. The movie begins in the bustling market of Bogotá, Colombia, where traffic jams and people selling goods are a common sight. Outside Belco Industries, armed guards diligently check the IDs and vehicles of employees. To his surprise, even the Kuberi is asked for identification. The armed guards send an employee who speaks the native language home. After the thorough check, all the workers enter the building and prepare for work. Unbeknownst to them, every room, including the toilets, is constantly monitored through cameras. Dani, a newcomer to Belco, receives a briefing about the new facilities, including a tracer implanted on the back of her head. She is informed that the tracer is for her protection against kidnapping. It becomes evident that Belco is an international corporation that employs American workers in South America. Meanwhile, Wendell, a creepy colleague, continuously stares at the beautiful Lindra even when she notices him. Eventually, a nerdy guy named Mike approaches Lindra, and they start making out. However, Lindra abruptly stops and explains that she recently went through a divorce and doesn't want to rush into things. Later, Mike visits his co-worker Terry's room and questions why there are only a few people present that day. Terry is unaware of the actual reason but speculates that the local employees were sent home by the guards at the gate. Confused, Mike returns to his room and looks suspiciously at the hangar next to his building. He contacts office security, Evan, to inquire about the strange circumstances, but even Evan has no information. Suddenly, a mysterious voice over the intercom instructs everyone in the building to stop working. The voice reveals that there are 80 people inside, and that most of them will die within 8 hours if a given task is not completed. The task involves eliminating any 2 employees within 30 minutes, or else they will face even worse consequences. Fear and panic grip everyone upon hearing this announcement. Their worries escalate when they discover that the telephones are not working and the cell networks are jammed. With no other options, Mike calmly instructs everyone to evacuate the floor. However, as they attempt to do so, reinforced metal plates abruptly seal all doors and windows from the outside. As the situation intensifies, the people inside the office begin to grasp the reality of the threat. Amid their panic, Mike remains composed and instructs the maintenance workers, Bud and Lonnie, to use a blowtorch to melt the metal sealing the doors. However, their efforts prove futile as the doors remain unaffected. Some workers rush to the roof in hopes of alerting someone outside the premises. In the hallway, the Barry attempts to calm his team by suggesting that someone might be playing a prank on them. However, Mike, skeptical of the situation's seriousness, suspects a larger conspiracy behind the dead telephones, armed guards, and the suspicious activities near the old hangar. On the roof, a woman spots an armed guard inside a guard post and urgently informs the others, calling for help. The guard hears them but nonchalantly ignores their pleas. The group, led by Marty, believes that it could be a psychological test and urges everyone to remain calm. However, just as Marty finishes speaking, a female worker's head suddenly explodes. 3 more workers meet the same fate in the lobby. Terrified, the staff assumes they are being shot at and scatters to find cover. Once the explosions cease, Barry examines one of the corpses and confirms that the wounds are not caused by bullets. Mike joins him and identifies the cause as the tracer implanted in the heads of international workers. Realizing the gravity of their situation, Mike takes swift action, locking himself in a restroom and attempting to remove the tracer with a knife. However, the voice on the intercom interrupts him, threatening to blow his head off in the next 10 seconds if he doesn't cease his actions. Reluctantly, Mike complies. Meanwhile, as the staff members break through objects hanging on the walls, they discover cameras positioned throughout the building, further adding to their unease. In the basement, where Dani has taken refuge, Bud and Lonnie venture to fix the air conditioner. While Bud examines the AC fans, the voice on the intercom resumes, affirming that the game is real and instructing everyone not to destroy the cameras or remove the tags from their heads. The voice issues an ultimatum. The staff members must eliminate 30 people among themselves within the next 2 hours, or else 60 more workers will have their heads explode. This revelation sends everyone into a state of panic. Once the voice falls silent, Wendell and some co-workers gather knives from the cafeteria, while others seek hiding places. In the basement, Bud tries to calm Lonnie, but to his surprise, Lonnie strikes him on the head, instantly eliminating him. Lonnie then spots Danny in her hiding spot and moves towards her. However, she fights back and successfully kills him by pushing him against a pillar. Up in the hallway, Barry, Wendell, and Terry consider the option of killing, but the rest of the room vehemently opposes it. Lindra proposes an alternative plan of hanging banners from the rooftop. To execute this idea, Lindra and Mike gather supplies such as paint, rope, and duct tape, and head to the elevator. While ascending the building, Mike, Lindra, and Evan encounter Barry and his group, who are melting the locks of the armory. Worried about the potential consequences, Mike pleads with them to stop, but the assailants persist in their destructive actions. Filled with anger, Mike pulls out a gun, shoots at the gas tank, and then leads his group towards the rooftop. In the subsequent scene, Marty, the stoner, empties all the jars of drinking water inside the office building, mistakenly believing that his co-workers are experiencing hallucinations caused by the water. Back on the rooftop, Mike and his friend struggle to hang a banner that reads, "We are being held hostage." However, the group is met with gunfire from the armed guards on the ground, forcing them to retreat. Meanwhile, on the stairs, Mike shares his belief with Lindra that the entire situation is a human experiment aimed at extracting information from them. In that moment, Barry appears and knocks Mike unconscious with a blow to the head. Wendell then holds Evan at knife point, demanding the keys to the armory. When Evan refuses and throws the keys away, an enraged Wendell fatally stabs him. With the keys in his possession, Barry opens the armory and distributes pistols among his group members. The armed group herds all the co-workers back to the lobby. Barry proceeds to categorize the workers into different groups, targeting the elderly and those with illnesses for elimination. However, the number of expendable people is still insufficient. Time is running out, with only 20 minutes remaining until the deadline. With no other choices, Barry decides to personally select the targets and begins shooting at their heads, including Mike. Just as Terry is about to shoot Mike, Danny quickly pulls the electric main switch, causing everyone, including Mike, to scatter and seek cover. The voice on the intercom announces that only 29 people have been eliminated and there are just 2 minutes left. Another elimination must occur within the next 120 seconds, or else 30 more people will die. Meanwhile, Lindra is pursued by Terry, but she manages to hide under a table. Using her shoes as a distraction, she surprises Terry from behind and inflicts severe injuries. Terry pleads for mercy while lying on the floor, and despite his actions, Lindra decides to spare him. As time runs out, the workers fall one person short of completing the task. As a consequence, as mentioned earlier, the voice causes the heads of 31 more people, including Terry, to explode. The voice on the intercom announces the rule for the final stage. The person with the highest number of eliminations in the next hour will be allowed to live. Currently, Barry has the most eliminations with 11, followed by Wendell with 7. Danny and her friend find refuge by climbing on top of the elevator, but Barry enters the elevator and selects the 7th floor. To avoid being crushed, Danny jumps off the top of the elevator onto a side beam. Unfortunately, her friend doesn't make it in time and is crushed as a result. The elevator is now trapped, with Barry inside. In the cafeteria on the 1st floor, Lindra discovers Marty and his companion Chet extracting unexploded bombs from the heads of the deceased individuals. Their plan is to utilize these bombs to create a breach in the metal barrier, enabling their escape. Later, Lindra reaches for the intercom microphone and urgently calls out to Mike, requesting him to come to her on the first floor. Meanwhile, in the elevator, Barry breaks the handlebar and eventually manages to pry open the lift door. Simultaneously, while Lindra is attempting to drink water, she witnesses Wendell dragging and mutilating a corpse. Filled with terror, Marty, Chet, and Lindra attempt to overpower Wendell. Unfortunately, despite sustaining injuries, Wendell overpowers them and brutally kills Chet and Marty. He then sets his sights on Lindra, but she cleverly pushes a table against him and uses an axe to put an end to his life. In the following scene, Mike and Lindra reunite in the lobby, finding solace in each other's presence. Meanwhile, Danny clings to the other side of the elevator in an attempt to escape from the floor. At the same time, Barry successfully exits the elevator with the assistance of the handlebar. In the basement, a man prepares a Molotov cocktail using generator fuel and glass bottles. Lindra shows Mike the bombs they extracted from the heads of the deceased, which he keeps in his pocket. Suddenly, the man from the basement hurls a Molotov cocktail, setting a woman on fire. He then targets Mike and Lindra but narrowly misses. Just as the situation becomes dire, Barry arrives and shoots the Molotov-wielding man, injuring Lindra in the process. At that moment, Danny manages to slip into the elevator and descends to the ground floor. However, as soon as the elevator door opens, Barry swiftly kills Danny with a single shot, leaving only 3 survivors: Barry, Mike, and Lindra. Taking refuge inside a closet, the couple engages in a brief conversation where Mike reassures Lindra that they will find a way to escape safely. However, Lindra, weakened by her injuries, fails to respond and gradually succumbs to her wounds. Now, only the 2 men remain. After some time, Barry traces a blood trail and arrives at the room. Driven by rage, Mike emerges from the closet and launches an attack on Barry. This culminates in a fierce and brutal fight, involving a flurry of punches and kicks. However, our protagonist ultimately triumphs, managing to kill the antagonist by repeatedly striking him with a tape dispenser. Mike stands as the lone survivor among the 80 employees of Belco Industries, and the voice on the intercom congratulates him. The metal shields retract from the doors and windows, and soon, 2 guards enter the hall and apprehend Mike. He is taken to the adjacent old hangar, where he comes face to face with the man responsible for the voice on the intercom. In a state of confusion, Mike is forcefully placed in a chair and subjected to interrogation. The man reveals that the game they endured was an experiment conducted by social scientists, aiming to gather data for future societal modeling. To everyone's astonishment, Mike had secretly planted tiny bombs on the guards. Seizing the opportune moment, he swiftly rushes to the detonator switch and triggers the explosion of every worker's bomb except his own. With the guards incapacitated, Mike retrieves a firearm from one of them and proceeds to eliminate the remaining officers. He fires several rounds at the main orchestrator until his ammunition runs out. In the final scene, Mike emerges from the hangar and stands with closed eyes, facing the sky. He drops the gun, symbolizing the end of violence and his liberation. As the view slowly pans out, multiple screens reveal that workers from other Belco companies have also survived their respective experiments. Thank you for watching. You can subscribe and give this video a like. Goodbye.